Hi, I'm James Adam Tucker, and for the past 35 years, I've been an actor, director, and editor right here in Hollywood. Today's topic, what I want to talk about, and this is going out to aspiring actors and also actors who may be in the business for a while, the importance of getting professional headshots. Now, I'm not talking about going to one of these headshot photographers who are going to charge you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and there are some out there that will charge you that much. More on the lines of they are celebrity photographers who shoot people who are already successful, who are already, working actors, working theater actors, maybe commercial artists, people out there who already have a high net worth. So they will hire the best photographers to shoot their photos. I'm talking about when you're just starting out. You still want professional photos. So one of the first things, as a matter of fact, I got an email, it was about a few weeks ago, from a young actor. I think he saw some of my YouTube videos, and he wanted my opinion on his new headshots. So I told him, certainly, send them to me. I'll take a look at them, and I'll give you my honest feedback. So a day later, he sent me his headshots. His brother had taken them, he told me, and they were very dark. He might have shot them inside of a car for some reason, but they were very dark, and they were completely wrong for commercial or theatrical look. So I told him the honest truth, that what I did was, and what I do a lot of times is, when I want to tell people something that may be a little bit difficult to hear, I send them a sample of what a professional headshot looks like. So I went to the photographer who takes my photos now these days, and I sent him to his website, and I pointed out some particular male photos with his same skin tone. And so a few weeks later, he sent me another batch that he had went to a professional photographer. And I told him, I'm not telling you to use my photographer, because my photographer might be a little bit out of his range also for just starting out. But I told him to look in his area and find a professional photographer who does headshots that are comparable to the samples I sent you. So it worked out great for him. And that's why it prompted me, as I was making my list of what videos I wanted to talk about for people aspiring to get into the acting business, headshots. So you don't have to come here to Hollywood. You don't have to go to New York. You don't have to go to Atlanta. Most of the time, there's a professional quality headshot photographer somewhere near you. But you have to really look. You're going to do a Google search. You're going to look at some of their work. You're going to try to get some referrals from maybe people who have worked with them. You might even have some actor friends who have had some professional style headshots taken. But one of the first things I would recommend is that you go on the internet and you look at what professional acting headshots look like, so you can have an idea of what you want. Because even though you're hiring the photographer, you want a specific look that you're comfortable with, that you're comfortable using to represent yourself. This leads me to a part of the story which I want to talk about. For years, my wife was a photographer, and for years I would get her to take a lot of my new headshots. Like sometimes if I needed a specialty shot for a role I was trying to pitch myself for, or I wanted a different look for my agent, so they could get me out on a different character type look. So she would take those character shots. And I ended up using a lot of those character shots to book work. But I met this agent probably here in Los Angeles, and I met the agent about, what was it? Maybe, almost 10 years ago. And one of the best things he told me this little story. He said, he looked at my headshot and he said, these look okay, but I want to tell you this little analogy that I use with actors all the time. He said, okay, you're walking down the street. You're looking for something to eat. You're looking for a restaurant. You see two restaurants side by side. The outside of this restaurant on your left looks kind of run down. It's kind of not shabby, but just not as well kept as you think a restaurant should be. Then on the right side, you see another restaurant who's kind of sparkling new. The lawn is manicured. The parking lot is clean. The windows are clean. They have a nice neon sign, Art Deco. So you look at these two restaurants, both Italian restaurants, and you see people inside both restaurants. So which one do you think you'll be drawn to? Most likely the one that looks more inviting, looks more professional, looks more appealing. And so that's the little analogy he used on me to finally get me to open my eyes and see that something was missing from my headshots for a number of years that I had been using. They looked good, they looked professional, but they didn't take it to that next level. So that's what I'm talking about. You're going to want photos that take you to the next level, because casting people, they're going through photos, they're just like, pressing their little mouse button, click, 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 click. And if something catches their eye, then they stop. Then they look at it. Then they look at the resume. Then they look to see if you have a demo scene or you have some video samples that you've done. So you want to have something that represents you. Number one, that's one thing I want to say also too. You don't want to get your photos retouched so much that it doesn't look like you. Over the years, number of times I've met a lot of casting people. This is when we did more in-person casting. And one of the things they would always say to me, we're so glad you look like your photo. A lot of times as actors and actresses, we only think it's the women that come in and they don't look like their photo. But guys do the same thing. You get the airbrushing, you put on a whole bunch of makeup, you might have your hair cut different or styled different. You want to look a true representation of how you're going to walk into their office. And whatever headshots you decide to represent yourself with, you want to have that consistent, realistic look, because you don't want to waste their time and you don't want to waste your own time. You showing up or in their office and with a headshot that's maybe 10 years younger, 5 years younger, or that completely doesn't look like you because you had it retouched so much. Nowadays we have all this digital retouching. I'm just thinking about the old days of Photoshop, when that's how they would do all their retouching. Removing all the flaws from your face and, or putting on so much makeup they can't tell what you really look like. I'm not saying you have to go with no makeup, or if you have extensive little blemishes or something that you want to cover, cover those. But you want a picture that looks like you, so that when they walk into the office, they say, oh, that's James Tucker. Yeah, come on over. One thing I would do in the past too, when I would go, and I tried a technique mostly on small budget films, because sometimes professional A movies or A TV shows, on a higher level, union jobs, that's what I'm trying to say, they don't want you to come dressed in character unless they tell you to. A lot of agents and casting people even don't want to see your character style photos. But sometimes when I'm going for a smaller project, I will go ahead and put a cop shirt on, a tie. I won't put a full-fledged uniform on, but I hint towards the character. And that's one thing that you can do in your photos. If it's a businessman, if it's a construction worker, you don't want to go with the full construction hat and goggles. And also if you're a doctor, you don't want to go with the stethoscope hanging over your shoulder in your photos. That's just me. Sometimes it could work. I can tell you one quick story for me. When it did work, I put my police officer shirt on and my police officer tie style, and I sent that in for a job years ago on the Mindy project. And I decided to do something that I don't normally do. I went to the audition dressed like that, and it worked. I got the part, and that was just a little bit that helped me. Obviously, I like to think my acting got me the part, and I'm sure it did, but the shirt and the tie with that feeling of a police officer didn't hurt. But sometimes you may not want to take that chance. You just want to indicate the role. If you're going for a lawyer, you'll have a shirt and tie and maybe a jacket. If you're going for a dad, you have more of a casual dad shirt, that kind of thing. Construction worker, you may have the blue collar shirt, that kind of thing. You don't want to go over the top. Another quick story from years ago. I was working with a casting director, Susan Scudder, I think her name was, and she cast, this was years ago, a television show called Hunter. And she had booked me on a role. I did a small part on there years ago. But she told a story that one time she was doing this casting for Hunter, and she came to work, and there was a homeless man, and this was years before we had this homeless crisis that we have out here in Los Angeles. I mean, years before. There was no homeless crisis like it is now. But she came to work, and she had to literally step over a homeless man. He wouldn't move. She had to step over a homeless man to get in her office, which was located somewhere on Sunset Boulevard. But she got in the office. She sat down. Her assistant started bringing in actors, blah, 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 blah. And maybe the third actor was that homeless guy. That's taking it too far. So he didn't get the role. She was really upset about that. But again, I'm talking about headshots, but you don't want to take it too far in your headshot either. You don't want to go with the bruised eye and the missing tooth. I've seen people do that, that kind of thing, or holding a gun at the camera. No, you don't want to do stuff like that. You don't want to take it too far. You want to indicate the role you're going for. But again, your headshots need to be professional. They need to represent you. You need to find a photographer who is talented, who knows how to do 3-point lighting and some creative lighting, has a nice backdrops. And the way you find that out is by looking at their samples. Maybe even if you find any people who have worked with them in the past, you want to talk to them about, how they worked. You want to find out how much time you have. Sometimes they break it into looks. Like a look is one change of clothes. And if you change your clothes, that's called a second look. So sometimes you can get 1 look, 2 look, 3 looks. If you don't have any pictures at all, I recommend doing 3 looks. I would say something dramatic, something in the middle of the road, and something that kind of feels a little comic. That can help. Commercial photos are the one that would be smiling and happy. So I would say that's more commercial than comedian. But a commercial look is a nice big bright smile, nice clean lighting so they can see you really well. And then you have a dramatic piece, and then maybe something that's in between a professional look, professional, casual, and a commercial look. And also too, what I've done in the past in some of the classes that I've taught and classes that I've taken was we get people to fill out, and you can find forms like this on the internet. And you may get friends, family, people who you've worked with to answer these questions. It's a questionnaire, and they can be long. You can get a medium-sized one, maybe 30 questions, that ask them questions about you. So you can get a honest opinion of how people see you. Sometimes we have these opinions of ourselves, but we don't know how people see us. And the reason I'm saying this is because you want to see what character people naturally would assign to you. Now, I definitely want you to get photos on the characters that you feel you can portray, because you're going to be more comfortable. If you are the kind of character that would portray a criminal, or you might portray a police officer, or you might portray a teacher or a lawyer, or the young mom, or the young dad, that kind of thing. And those are the looks you want. Those are the looks you're going to go for in your headshots. And if you've been getting, and this will be refined as you start going out for roles also. But it's good to know in advance what other people whose opinion you might respect, what type of characters they would send you out for, or they would cast you for, just to give you an idea of your character type. Yes, that's what it's called. You should be able to find a list on character types, on how to judge my character type. And you can get people to fill that out for you so that you can see how people see you. Again, we see ourselves differently than how other people see us. And you want to know especially when you're first starting out, you want to know what you can get called in for. What was this? As soon as they see you, they say, oh, he's a construction worker. Oh, she's a nurse. Oh, she's a dental assistant. So you want to get your character type, decide on your character type. And these are the things you need to know before you go to the photo session. So I want you to look online, find photos that you may like of other people that are similar to you. And that way you can do your homework before you go to the photographer. And you want to work with a photographer who's open to talking to you about the looks you want. So you come in and you know what you want. You want to find out maybe what kind of background you like. That really depends on too what the photographer can shoot or what he has in his studio. So look through his book of samples and look for backgrounds that you like. You pay attention to that. Look for how the colors that clothes people are wearing match with the background that you may like. So there are things you can do. You don't just want to show up and take my picture. You want to do your research so that you get a photograph that you're comfortable with, that represents you, shows what you look like, and the type of character that you want to portray. Now, as time goes on and you start getting called in for auditions, you'll see what casting people see you as. You'll start getting called in a lot for the young mom. You'll start calling in for the young, attractive girlfriend, or you will get called in for the hunky boyfriend or the detective, whatever role the casting people start seeing you as when you're starting out. That's what you want to lean into, because when you're starting out, they're going to typecast you, and that's just how this business is. And you want to lean into that until you get experience, and then you can branch out. You can start doing other roles. Oh, I want to play a lawyer. I want to go for the doctor, or I want to go for the mob guy. But at first you're going to be called in for what you look like, and you want to lean into that. Because that's how you get your foot in the door. So again, do your research, What I didn't say, I'm going to stop before I wrap up. Please subscribe to my channel. I keep forgetting to do that. A lot of you have been subscribing, and I really thank you for that. But please subscribe. I need to say that up front. But in closing, what I wanted to say, let me recap again. You want to find a photographer whose work you like and it looks professional. You want to look at his book, his samples, and find people that, kind of look like you and see photos that you may like. Don't just pick out a photo of someone who's attractive and say, oh, I want to look like that. You need to see how people that are similar to you look in the photos that he's taken. Skin tone, hair color, and then go a little bit further. Clothes that you may want to wear, the type of character you're trying to portray. Look and see if he's done that. Look to see what the backgrounds he has available look like. So become prepared. Get the photos you need and get started. But they need to be professional. Down the line, you can have some, relaxed photos that maybe a friend can take. If you need a specialty photo of you dressed up like a witch or dressed up like a construction worker, that's something different. But your initial headshots need to be professional, polished, and represent what you really look like. So do your research, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.